nothing existed which adequately covered rock and roll. There were plenty of, in past years, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years, not, say 10 years ago, there were some adequate publications around that did cover the field well. But rock and roll, is a particular form that's changed tremendously and keeps changing and vastly changing, making a tremendous amount of changes. And there was no publication around that covered it the way it should be covered, that it treated it the way it deserved to be treated, that, understood it really, and understood it. It's not serious music, it's not teeny bop stuff, it's just good music to have fun by. There's a lot of people who have tried to take the power inherent in rock and roll, of the thousands and millions of people who follow rock and roll, follow the styles of the Beatles, whose lifestyle is set by this, and tried to translate it into political power and use it for political ends, But it's always been unsuccessful. It's never worked, and I can give you example after example of how it has never worked, and that's because rock and roll is something else. It's not a serious thing. I mean, it's not a form or a media, which says let's get on the march to do this. It's a thing which says have fun, enjoy yourself, have a good time, rock it up, smash it up, sock it to you, enjoy yourself. And it's not at all that other thing.
Jann, up until just a very few years ago, rock and roll was thought to be the province of what is now called the teeny boppers, the 14 and 15-year-old high school students in the main. And in recent years, sophisticated publications such as yours and FM radio, and it's reaching a different age group now, I would think. Why? What's the difference between rock and roll now and the rock and roll of the Elvis Presley, Everly Brothers era?
It's changed. It's changed. I mean, the thing about a popular art, any kind of popular art, is tremendously subject to change. And the Elvis Presley, Fats Domino, Chuck Berry, Everly Brothers era was a very good era of music. I mean, that was a lot of good music in there. There was a lot of really good music. After that, it went to a lot of schlocky, terrible, the real, if you can recall, Frankie Avalon, and Kooky Burns, Kooky, lend me your comb, and Kooky Burns, I mean, he couldn't sing. He couldn't sing. He was tone deaf. He couldn't sing. And Frankie Avalon, Paul Anka, it was very bad. The Beatles has what's changed rock and roll from what that was to what it is now. As it became more and more a better idiom, better music, more and more people were drawn to it. All the kids of my age who had listened to Elvis Presley and Fats Domino and Chuck Berry, and then had to sit through, load through Frankie Avalon and so on. I mean, after Frankie Avalon, when that started, man, the thing was folk music, and everybody was a big folk music freak. But the Beatles brought it all back home, and then their movie came out, and everybody saw, oh my God, they're just like us. They're great. They're having fun. They're enjoying themselves, and it's good too, and it's pleasant. It's good listening. And that's what brought back the older audience, i.e. the older audience, 20 years old, to rock and roll.
Jann, is there such thing as a San Francisco sound, or is it just that this happened to be the place where acid rock, or whatever it's called, started?
There is a San Francisco sound as such, but it's very amorphous and very difficult to define. Although it's very obvious. I wrote a long article about this once, which I couldn't go into now. I think the important thing about San Francisco is that it's a scene. It's a warm, supportive, friendly city that's historically, had the bohemians, the beats, that supported the arts, poetry, jazz, and similarly, today it supports rock and roll. I mean, it's the only city in the United States where the police in San Francisco are reasonable enough or subject to enough public pressure on the part of the local newspapers, i.e. the San Francisco Chronicle, not to close down a rock and roll club. Whereas in city after city throughout the United States, they're all closed down, tremendous police harassment. This is the only city in the United States where such a new art scene could develop because of the liberality, the friendliness, the supportive nature of the atmosphere.
And the destiny of tomorrow. I urge every member of both parties Thank you.